Okay, so square roots, like you might be able to tell from the title, square roots has something to do with squares, although it doesn't really have anything to do with roots like you might think of them being from a tree or something. So let me explain. Let's say that you have a square. Let's make a good color here. So you have a square, and the square has an area of, say, 49. Let's give it an area of 49. And of course, those are units, square units, right? If you had it on graph paper, you could see the squares inside of it. That's its area. If we said to you, what is the square root of 49? It would appear like this, under this check mark looking thing. That's the square root symbol. And what that's asking you is, what is the side of a square with an area of 49? You might say, well, clearly that side would be 7, because 7 times 7 makes 49. So the square root of the area of 49 is 7. You might think of the root as this part right here. That's the root of the square. And it's the root number. We use it, right? We would take that 7, and to find the area, we would square it. So this says 7 squared, and this is asking, what's the square root of 7? And there's lots of numbers that have square roots. Like we could make our square, what if it was an area of 100? Well, you'd find the square root of 100, right? You probably think that is 10. And then there's lots of numbers that don't have what we call perfect square roots. Like let's say we have a square with an area of 5. You have to think to yourself, what times what makes 5? Or what's the square root of 5? And that is going to be an irrational number. That means that it's going to go on and on and on. Right? So you might think, let me see here, you might think, well, how could I write that? Well, you'd have to start with 2, and there'd be a decimal, and there'd be some other numbers, like 2, 3, and they would go on and on and on. Looks like I ran out of room there. So those are called numbers that do not have perfect square roots. Those are called irrational numbers. So let's think of another one real quick. Let's try 3, right? That's a simple one. 3, what's the square root of 3? I'll write it over here. Well, you think to yourself, well, what two numbers are going to make 3? And there aren't any, right? But we can get close. If you plug it into a calculator, you'd see that it would be 1, 7, 3, 2, and it would just keep going. That's called irrational. All right, and we'll talk more about irrational numbers in another video. These are square roots.